Hi everybody, Melanie here and welcome back to the channel. So there is a lot to say when it comes to understanding and managing your addiction to your ex, especially when this person was dysfunctional, especially when this person has a cluster B personality disorder. There is so much to say with regards to being addicted to your ex, especially when it comes to your borderline ex as well. No two relationships are the same. So there is not one answer that I can give that will be applicable to everyone. So I'm giving you lots of insights here. And as always, I do love to hear from you. If you've got any feedback, question, comments, do email me. My email address is in the video description. I also want to emphasize that for some relationships, perhaps it's more about you, that perhaps the addiction is less about your partner and more about you. On the other hand, there are some people who are so wounded and so dysfunctional that they are intentionally trying to get you addicted to them. And this is why I'm not trying to say it's all their fault, and I'm not trying to say it's all your fault either. I do hope that with these videos that both parties take accountability and responsibility for their actions, for their behaviors. We're all adults here, and all of us need to accept our own parts that we play in this. And the more that we can do so, the better we can make changes, the more easily we can make changes so that we're not making the same mistakes in future relationships. So if you can relate to being obsessed, addicted to your borderline ex, to the relationship, maybe it's been a month, maybe it's been a few months, maybe it's been a year, maybe it's been a few years, and you still can't get your borderline ex out of your head. Understanding the dynamics of what often happens in these relationships can help to explain why you could be addicted to this. The highs are very high and the lows are very low. And it's not normal for people to say that they love you, that you're the one, that you're amazing, for them to just completely flip the script and then accuse you of being the worst person ever, that you're the reason that their mental health is like this, blaming everything on you, and then just calling quits and ghosting you. This happens a lot. This is something that I hear time and time again from my clients with my emails. Now, obviously, this doesn't happen in every single borderline relationship. It is a spectrum. People who have traits versus people who are high spectrum BPD, there is a difference there. And the difference, in my opinion, is consciousness, self-awareness, and control over whims, impulses, and being able to see what's going on and make different choices. To have a better grasp on reality compared to people who are high spectrum BPD, or they are closer to psychosis, in which their grip on reality is a lot harder, it's a lot different for them compared to someone who is just has traits. So let's give an example of someone who is high spectrum BPD. They want people to become addicted to them. And often they will use social media, they will use online dating apps, thirst traps with their videos, with their photos that they post. And this is designed to charm people, to entice people, like a beautiful flower, and especially if they're good looking, it's very easy to become enticed into this relationship. People who are so very dysfunctional want people to become addicted to them. They want people to become hooked onto them very quickly. And this is partly their own desire, their own fantasy to have the ideal relationship straight off the bat. They are suffering, they are living in their own hell, and they want to escape their suffering, and often it's through fantasy. If you've seen the TV show The Act, I highly recommend it. And it's another example of a child who lives in fantasy and Disney. Warning sign when adult women are into Disney, like really into Disney, is this person living in fantasy. But I digress. So people who have their head stuck in the clouds and want this particular fantasy, this ideal relationship that will take them out of their suffering. And they want people to jump in, dive in head first with them. This is why you will find that when you date someone who has BPD, they like to go fast and they want you to become hooked. They want to facilitate a bond from the get-go. And perhaps this is because when you are hooked on someone, it's easier to overlook their flaws, their dysfunctions, their edges. It's easier to forgive when you are head over heels in love. It's easy to dismiss and to make excuses for their dysfunctional behaviors. They want the fantasy, and they will find people who are willing to jump in and join in with the fantasy. So it's not all on them, it's on you as well. I'd like to make this clear, that they will look out for people who are lonely, people who are codependent, people who want the fantasy as much as them. And if you have come from a background in which you weren't complimented, you weren't really seen as amazing, you weren't really noticed, and now you have this person who is saying you're the most amazing thing, they are very attentive, they're listening, they are showering you with compliments and adoration. This in itself is addictive. It is like a drink of water when you've been walking the desert without any water. It is wonderful. And if you've never had that before, then this is one of the hooks of becoming addicted to this person and to this relationship. And often people with BPD, especially if they're good looking, they have this energy, this aura about them where people look, like they enter a room and people stop and stare. They have this way about them which just entices people in. People pay attention to them. So through love bombing, through elevating you, putting you on a pedestal, idolizing you, and showering you with love and affection, it helps to fan the flames of addiction. It's meant to bring you into a really intimate, close connection. And if you've never really opened up to someone before, and you open up to this person, this in itself is enough for you to become obsessed about this person, about this relationship. It's quite wonderful to meet someone who's different and you get on with and you sympathize and you think, yes, I've met someone who actually gets me, someone who sees me. To have the most amazing high at the beginning of the relationship, combined with the cocktail of serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, and all other neurotransmitters and hormones that come to play when you fall in love. It makes it the sweetest drug ever, more addictive than sugar or crack. I don't know. I really don't know, but it's very addictive. It's very, very addictive. What goes up high, really high, quite quickly at the beginning, often comes crashing down. Now, I've made other videos talking about what happens when the high goes down to the low. I won't include that in this video, but what I will say is that it creates a lot of cognitive dissonance for you when someone who's treated you in such a wonderful, loving way and seeing you as amazing to suddenly change and flip and treat you in the opposite way and then break up with you. It's so hard for the mind to wrap around what happened. It's so painful, creates so much suffering that it's natural for the mind to latch on to the good times. It's completely normal to be thinking, reminiscing about the loving, caring, compassionate side of your ex. It's not normal for someone to be going, you're amazing, to like, I hate you, you're the worst, and then just leaving, to be able to just seemingly flip a switch in their mind and they just change how they think and feel about you. And it's really hard to bear this. And for people who aren't on the BPD spectrum, it's really confusing as to how someone can treat you this way. And as part of the cognitive dissonance about all of this, it's totally understandable that you'll be thinking over and over again, what happened? Part of overthinking this is going over what happened because it seems illogical, because it seems that it doesn't make sense that they will break up with you over this. So we replay it over and over and over in our minds. This is dangerous because the more that we're thinking about something, the more energy we are putting into these thoughts, and it becomes more and more of an impulse to keep thinking about it. This becomes addictive. The more we keep thinking about something, the more grooved it becomes in our mind, and the more on impulse, a reflex, we'll keep thinking about this. It becomes addictive. It becomes a vicious cycle. Energy follows thought. Whatever you pay attention to in your thoughts, you give it energy. And the more that you're thinking about this, obsessing about this, it becomes dangerous. But it's understandable. You're trying to make sense of what happened. And in a dysfunctional relationship, it's often quite logical. With BPD, for example, often they will overreact to things and accuse you of things that aren't true. And when they leave you and you haven't had your chance to stand up for yourself, perhaps you haven't had the opportunity for closure, it means that we are thinking about it more and more. So it's not that thinking about it is a bad thing per se, but it's when we overthink it and not give ourselves a break, this becomes dangerous. And this is on you. This is something that you need to work on within yourself, the ability to pause and drop it. This is why I'm such an advocate of mindfulness training and meditation practice. Anything that puts you in the present moment, anything that helps you realize that you're stuck in a certain way of thinking or feeling, and to stop, pause, and make a choice for something different. I highly recommend doing this if you're overthinking things, because at the end of the day, it's just going to drive you crazy. It's going to ruin you. It's going to affect your health. You're not going to be able to eat or sleep. So I highly recommend finding a balance, seeking balance. That is to take time not thinking about it. Take your time to take your mind off this. Another reason why we're overthinking this is because if this is the first time that you've opened up to someone and you've never had a relationship like this before, where you just let your guard down and you've never been this intimate, maybe you've never been this in love before, and this person just changes their mind, says you are this, you are that, and leaves. It's heartbreaking. It's the worst form of suffering that anyone can go through. And this is the feedback I get from a lot of clients who have been through the worst hell growing up, and this is actually worse than anything that they've been through. This is a form of PTSD. And as part of PTSD, we keep replaying things over and over again. And often it's out of our control. There'll be something in our environment that reminds us of our ex, whether it's music, something on TV, literally anything in your environment can trigger a memory, which will bring a feeling. And then suddenly we're in this black hole, this whirlpool of just thinking about them and ruminating about it. And you may not have the visual flashbacks, but emotional flashbacks kick in. And such as is common with PTSD, we become a bit of a broken record, just easily going back to that time and place when the wounding happened. And the feedback I get from clients is that often there is a particular memory or two right around the breakup which they can't get out of their head, and they keep replaying it. Another reason why you could be addicted to your ex is because of the past. Maybe fear, obligation, and guilt has kept you long term with this person. And so when we break up with them, the guilt for how you've treated them, whether it's true or not, obligation to want to look after them, and the fear of what's going to happen now. All of this means that we do keep thinking and obsessing and worrying and ruminating, and anxiety that goes unchecked becomes chronic. And chronic anxiety is just going to make things worse. There is a biochemical basis to addiction, and a lot of this is finding your dopamine hit. This person has been your dopamine hit. When they messaged you, when you looked at their social media account and you got that buzz, that feel-good factor from getting that message, getting that photo, and now it's gone. You're missing that, you're craving that. And a lot of it is habit as well. If you're used to thinking about them every day, if you're used to receiving messages and now it's just gone just like that, you will still be expecting it. Your brain needs a little time to catch up. And if you've never had a relationship like this before, it's understandable that you might benchmark this, and this is the relationship. And all other new dates, new interactions, new relationships just don't measure up. It's one of a kind. Dysfunctional relationships are very different. And because they're not normal, and by normal I mean they're not your typical relationship that is the norm, all the more reason that we're thinking about it and trying to figure it out. But my final advice is that even if you keep spending time contemplating and thinking and obsessing about this, maybe you may not get the answers that you need. You may not get the closure that you need. And it has to get to a point where you need to accept and to surrender. But for some people, this is really hard. And sometimes people need a little bit of help to get closure, need some extra clarity about what happened, just so that you can finally get the answers that you need so you can make peace with what is and move on. And if you can relate to this, if you need some extra guidance and support, do get in contact with me. My email address is in the video description. I offer online counselling and coaching sessions specifically to help you with this. And if you don't want counselling but you want some more videos, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do email me with suggestions about video topics that you'd like for me to cover. I've also started a new vlog, Memories of Arcadia, link in the video description. And this is me making artistic, relaxing, happy videos to make you feel good, because one needs to relax and feel good after trauma. So I combine music and creative filming with some advice about what helps me overcoming trauma and stress. And there's also the shared channel I've got going on with Casey, in which, again, we're talking about personal growth and different ways of addressing trauma and moving on from this. So do check out these two channels. I'd love for your subscriptions on both channels. They're both new and I'd really love your support on both of them. And get in contact with me if you want some extra support or you've got video ideas. I'd love to hear from you. So I shall leave it at that. There will be more videos on addiction coming at some point. Thank you so much for your support, everyone. Thank you for liking and subscribing to this channel. It means a lot. And I'll leave it there for now. All right. Bye for now.